My name is Steve Holliday. I serve as Director of Ministry Operations for Ultimate Escape. Ultimate Escape is a ministry that helps teens and young adults develop a healthy vision for sexuality and overcome addictive sexual behaviors. I have a real passion for Ultimate Escape from a couple of different fronts. One is my background is youth ministry, so I've been associated with or working with teenagers and young adults since 1987, so a little over 20 years interacting with teens and seeing the issues that they face. But probably more importantly, the struggle with sexuality for me began at a very early age. Basically, I have no memory prior to struggling with sexual issues. In the spring of 2002, was fortunate to run across a ministry called Bethesda Workshops based in Nashville, Tennessee, and that began my path to recovery. 2 years into my own recovery, we were doing a 40 Days of Purpose study at the church where I served as a youth minister, and my prayer at that time began to be, God, if there's a greater purpose for my life that I haven't seen at this point, then please reveal that to me. And within just a very short amount of time, the vision for Ultimate Escape began to develop. And so in the fall of 2004, we began Ultimate Escape. I went back to graduate school and finished up a master's in Human Services Counseling, and over the last several years have become certified as a sexual addiction specialist. And that's basically where Ultimate Escape has come from. Over the past several years, I've had many opportunities to speak to audiences across the Southeast on issues related to sexuality. Frequently that involves God's vision for sexuality and comparing that to culture's vision for sex. In other words, what do we hear, what do we absorb from our culture that causes beliefs, expectations, ideas or values about sexuality, and what does God's Word say? You know, what does the Bible teach about God's vision for sexuality?
I think addictive sexual behavior is probably the biggest issue facing our world and certainly our churches. And I think the problem with it, the reason it's so devastating is because it's so covert and so subtle and so behind the scenes, and you have these struggles that nobody knows about and nobody has to know about because it's in the shadows and it's in the comfort of a home. It's so much more accessible and again so much more prevalent in subtle ways and not so subtle ways in our in media around us, that we're already kind of being exposed to it, and then here it's very accessible on the computer. And so I think it crosses age boundaries, it crosses gender boundaries. It is here in our face, and whether we're willing or ready to realize that or not is not really the point. It's here, and we either respond to that or we stick our head in the sand and act like it's not going on, but it's there and it's very prevalent.
Sexual addiction, I believe, is the addiction of choice for Christians. It is the issue in the church. Fueled by internet pornography, which is, again, the addiction of choice. This is the #1 sin problem, I believe, facing Christians today.
Things like sexual addiction are still a very secret sin. And with the internet, it is something that can be kept very private for a very long time and not be revealed to others. But I think the church in general needs to deal with these types of issues now, because we're starting to see marriages falling apart because of this.
When we talk about sexual behavior and problem sexual behavior, most people have kind of an assumption we're talking about guys. And the truth is, this is not just a guy issue. Matter of fact, in the college age and under population, my experience is showing this is about a 50-50. What we know is that people who visit internet sex sites, about 40% are female.
The struggle with sexual sin looks different sometimes for females, and so often it may be harder to identify. Women definitely do struggle with pornography, and I hear that from women, especially younger women who are growing up in this wired online generation. But females also struggle, especially in the area of relationships.
I know that struggle of begging God for forgiveness. God, if you'll forgive me this time, I'll never do this again. And honestly believing that and really feeling like at that point, life is going to be different, only to find the next day or a few days later, here I am back doing the same thing again.
And I wish there'd been somebody like Steve in my life years and years ago, back in the late 70s, early 80s, to say, you know, here are some natural feelings, here's some natural actions, here's a way to handle them, and here's what to do with them. And above all, no shame, no guilt, don't hide, no secrets. Be open, talk, share.
I think for a long time there's been a need for a ministry like Ultimate Escape. There's almost no one giving helpful, clinical, accurate information available for teens and for those who work with them.
Now we're going to do 20 push-ups, and ready, and set, and go.
One of the things I really enjoy about him is that he shoots straight and tells the kids how it is, and is not afraid to talk about difficult things to talk about. But he's not about shock value. He's not going in there just trying to open their eyes so that he gets a reaction. He's just sincerely talking about the truth of what is. He's able to talk about some pretty serious things in a lighthearted and even at times humorous ways.
Okay, go. So I'm standing here. Yeah, these things are hitting me in the head again, and I don't like that, so I just want to know.
If you're not going to call Steve and use Ultimate Escape, then what are you going to do? Who are you going to call? Right now, there's nobody out there that I know of that's doing this kind of thing for my teenagers. He's going to come in and do something that's professional and fun, interactive, that's going to connect with your teenagers and pull back the curtain on, you know, all of these things that we've been talking about. He's going to get a conversation started that has to happen. And if you're not going to use Ultimate Escape, who are you going to use?
You know, I am so grateful for the recovery that I've had, for the forgiveness that God has exercised in my life. I'm grateful for the hope that I have now, feeling like it's possible to live a life differently than I have in the past. And I want to be able to share that hope with other people. I want teens to understand you don't have to live trapped in this vicious cycle of I'm doing something sexually that I feel wrong for doing, but yet I keep finding myself here. And I want them to know God can change your life. God can lead you to a different place. It's possible for God to take you out of this place and bring you to a different place.